Lizzy was quietly cleaning a fish on her kitchen counter to prepare a meal for her and her husband. While she was doing that, she saw something that made her lose her grip on the knife, and it flew off. There seemed to be a shiny thing in the fish, and when she touched it, her screams echoed throughout the house because the thing moved. What could it be? Brian and his wife Lizzy lived in close contact with nature. They had a nice garden, and they planted their own fruits and vegetables. There was also a nearby lake where they fished regularly, so they lived off the land quite a bit. Growing things to eat was their favorite hobby and their favorite way to spend time as a family because they enjoyed teaching their children different skills. That day, the couple caught a fish as they had done many times before, but this day, things would take an unexpected turn. What they caught was a mudfish, also known as a bowfin, which is a type of bony fish. Not a lot of people like this fish, but if you cook it right, it can make for a tasty dish, and the couple knew how to do that. So every time they caught a bowfin, they got a delicious dinner out of it. Brian and Lizzy were planning on making fish cakes with baked potatoes, so it was time to prepare the fish. Lizzy began by putting the fish in the sink to clean it, something she had done many times before. However, this time would be different. Once she cleaned the fish with water, she took it to the kitchen counter. It was time to do Lizzy's least favorite part of the process, which was removing the head and gutting the fish to clean the inside of it. But just before she cut into the belly of the fish with the knife, she noticed something strange. There was a lump in the middle of the fish's body, and it looked strange, like it shouldn't be there. Lizzy wasn't sure what it could be, but it's not uncommon for fish to eat all kinds of things. So, carefully, she opened the fish to take it out. When she did, she found something strange, and she screamed in shock when she saw that it was shiny. It just took her by surprise, and she couldn't believe she had found that inside a fish. It was a gold necklace with an anchor-shaped pendant, and it was beautiful. She wondered how the fish found it, but that wasn't the only thing strange about the fish. There was something else going on. As Lizzy continued cleaning the fish, she pulled out its insides, and she reached the spot where she had seen the lump. However, just before digging into it with her fingers, something frightening happened. Lizzy touched something and felt it move, so she jumped back and screamed in horror. Brian immediately got to the kitchen and went to his wife's side, who was still screaming. "What's going on?" he asked as Lizzy was in a panic. Eventually, she calmed down enough to point to the fish. When Brian got closer to the fish to see what his wife was talking about, a lump of flesh curled up as if it were alive. The fish had been dead already, and Lizzy had already cut off the head. So how was it still moving? How was it possible? Lizzy decided to search the internet for a possible explanation before trying to touch the fish again. In the meantime, Brian started filming how the fish was moving. After a bit of searching, Lizzy discovered that fish tend to move even after death. Salt, a preservative and a very common ingredient, may cause dead fish to react because some cells may still be able to respond to stimuli. Lizzy finally sighed with relief, and she chuckled a little. That solved the mystery of how the fish was able to move, but they still didn't know what was inside the fish. Brian noticed the necklace on the counter, and he asked Lizzy about it. He was shocked when she told him how she found it, and became very interested in seeing what else was inside the fish. So Lizzy resumed, pulling out the entrails of the fish, and as she was pulling, a small ball fell out. The fish's stomach revealed a few small balls, and they were shining. "Is that a bead?" Lizzy asked. They picked them up to examine them. Brian squinted as he rolled the small, shiny balls between his finger and thumb, and when he held them up to the light, he was surprised. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. It turns out they were pearls. "Wow, are you sure?" Lizzy asked in amazement. Brian took one of them and used his teeth to check. Sure enough, they were real pearls. Mudfish, like bowfin fish, are not picky eaters. They eat whatever moves, so it's possible that this fish consumed a lot of oysters and mussels. At that point, the couple didn't know that the pearls they just found could sell for a lot of money, so it was a pleasant surprise. Brian filmed some videos of their discovery and uploaded one to social media to share the incident online. A lot of people saw it, and they were surprised by it. It's not every day that a fish comes with hidden treasures. Brian and Lizzy were particularly interested in finding the owner of the necklace, so they asked if anyone was familiar with it, but there were no clues. A couple of weeks later, Lizzy remembered that they caught more than one fish that day. The other 5 fish were sitting in the freezer, and she hadn't thought about checking them until now, so she thawed them and got to work cleaning them. The first fish didn't have any surprises, and it didn't move either. The same happened with the second, third, and fourth fish. However, the last fish did surprise them. As Lizzy was cleaning the 5th fish, her knife hit something solid inside of the fish. When she opened it, she found a gold ring, and it seemed like it belonged to a man based on the size. Once again, Brian and Lizzy couldn't believe their discovery. When they cleaned the ring, they found it was engraved with 2 names, Jimmy and Elizabeth, and a date. It was clear that it was a wedding ring, and they thought that the information could be useful in finding the owner. Brian and Lizzy searched for the names and the date, but the search wasn't easy. After a while, Brian exclaimed, "James and Elizabeth Jeffords." He was so excited to find something. They did a little sleuthing on social media, but they didn't see any mentions of a lost wedding ring. They likely lost it long ago, so they forgot about it. Eventually, Lizzy decided to message Elizabeth to introduce herself and ask if she or her husband had lost a wedding ring. She was so excited to hear back that she kept checking her phone, but no reply came. But when they were in bed, Lizzy finally got a reply. Elizabeth confirmed that they lost a wedding ring, but it happened years ago. Brian was already asleep, so Lizzy woke him up and they decided to meet with the couple. But before they did that, Lizzy and Brian explained that they fish at the lake near their home, and they found the ring in the stomach of one of the fish they caught. They wanted to make sure they found the right couple, so they asked Elizabeth about the other name engraved in the ring. It turns out her husband, James, goes by Jimmy, so they had found the real owners. It was time to meet face to face. Little did Lizzy know, however, that the best part of the story was yet to come. As Lizzy and Brian were pulling up to the home of the couple, Lizzy's eyes filled with tears. There, waiting for them on the front lawn, was an elderly couple holding hands. After they greeted each other, James and Elizabeth told their story. What happened was that they were walking along a pier many years ago. She wasn't sure when, but Elizabeth's small jewelry bag fell out of her purse. Unfortunately, the jewelry bag was caught in the waves, and they weren't able to retrieve it. The elderly couple showed Lizzy and Brian some photographs, and while they were doing that, Lizzy noticed something. Madeline was wearing the gold necklace with the anchor-shaped pendant in one of the photos. They couldn't believe it. It was destiny. The elderly couple was so grateful to Lizzy and Brian that they wanted to do something special for them. Madeline asked Lizzy to keep the necklace, and she accepted. When it was time for Lizzy and Brian to go back home, the elderly couple couldn't stop smiling. It was such a good day for everyone, and Lizzy was happy that they didn't give up on trying to find the owners of the ring. Losing something that has a lot of sentimental value is always heartbreaking. So Lizzy and Brian were glad they could return something special to the elderly couple. What do you think of this story? Do you believe in fate? Share your thoughts and comments below. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next story.